All right, cyber traders, welcome on back just for here another afternoon Tuesday, April 2nd, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Still great to see Dominic with us here right now. Margaret had Kathleen, Roger, Danny had John, Kathleen, all of our students just joining us from earlier, Luis, Dave on top. Just let me know if you can hear me loud and clear just for all of us here in the chat. And then on top of that, just all of us on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc. As always, at Cyber Trading U popping up on the lower left. You'll see there in just a bit. Oops, ooh. Hello, forgot the U there at the end. At Cyber Trading U, lower left popping up now. Now, with that in mind, how about this? The ladies at the trading room right now: Barbara, Susie, Kathleen, and I'm sure others on top later as well, and maybe Kelly. So Margaret just before Luis. Now, really quick for all of us though, entirely. Just I was writing to a few call outs earlier. We're always seeing if there's a stock that can make a pop, but that doesn't mean it's like going to be a great trade. We might call it out and then it just falls apart. It's like, shit, just move on to another stock. But there are stocks that are holding well throughout the day. Obviously, you see what's on the screen here, but as far as the level, well, that's what we're more focused around. If there's a big volume level, that's really what we'll use as a potential entry or exit point as far as direction, at least. Well, across the afternoon, I was saying to you, for CGC, it might take a little time, but I would want to see that 860 level act as support, right? I said that to you earlier at like 2:09 Eastern time. I'll repost that just again in the trading room. And well, it hasn't made that pop, but that was at 2:09 Eastern time. And since it moved up, it pulled back. And thankfully, it held support really well. It did hold very nicely since that time. So, this is going to be a potential trade that we'll put on our watch list here for the afternoon. If it ends up slamming right back down from this point, then you see my stops already set here on this trade at least. But, if it ends up slamming down, then we'll probably scrap it. But looking good here to begin. One of the pot stocks we've had our eyes on for a little while now. And we're very familiar with this trade too. We've been calling it out quite a bit. It has a great order book, good spread. So because of that, we're pretty familiar with this trade. Now, I did take a huge hit. Oh, actually, pardon me. No. I was going to say I had to do a little handiwork this morning or this afternoon on PowerPoint. So there we go. Going back on my daily chart, showing you the actual move, present day move that this stock has had. There we go. This thing's been on a tear since the end of March, going into this month here in April. Now, I'll tell you, there's actually a better pot stock today, and this has normally been our favorite. This has been the better of the bunch. But, ACB has had a very strong day altogether, too. Looking a little bit more flat now. I feel like it's kind of cooled off a bit. But you could see definitely had a great push from earlier today. Even with this, so it looks so flat. I don't know if it's going to make that same type of pop, or even if it does, maybe it just crawls. There might be even a better trade here to work with. We'll check maybe like the pot ETF, maybe like MSOS. This is going nowhere. And MJ, well, up 1.7%, but that's it. So even ACB right now, it's not like it's even a sector play. It's just that one stock, it seems, right? Just CGC for the time being, holding afloat, see if it can keep above 860. And we'll start off with just at least with this one for now. All right. Dominic says NXL, just another trade we've had our eyes on here. 13,000 share iceberg order. We'll get to that trade just in a second or so. Let's just really rip it right from top to bottom. And, I'm sure in between or afterwards, we'll just go through all other stocks like that. Actually, let me get my price column out here because, normally we're not really focused around stocks below $1, let alone 60 cents, let alone whatever this is, 4 cents. So, nice little push now on this cheapy KULR. Got to respect that play, that push. Here's our ACB, which we had talked about just before. I'll come back to this trade at the end, but it's not looking as good. CGC here. Number 6 is only up 15%. How about that? You want to know how the market's doing today? That's a pretty good gauge. Otherwise you're probably going to see some inverse ETFs on the top of the gainers list here. But really, since pre-market, the overnight gap down, we're dropping. We're trying to squeeze back up intermittently here. Albeit, I will say there's some like name brands out there doing pretty nice. Amazon's recovered pretty nicely up close to the closing price from yesterday. I believe. I want to try and shoot from the hip here. Was it Apple? Nah, it wasn't Apple. Pardon me there. Maybe it was AMD. Making a little bounce. We'll go through some sideless stocks just to wrap it up, but really getting back to the gainer side here, when number 5 is only up 15%, that's it. This one at least we have on the list, but yeah, that's not a good start. SIGA. Now, I'll tell you what, honestly, this trade, you've kind of not really been following this of late here. From basically 5 up towards near 10, started to make a better push for us to call out today, but just shooting from the hip, I shoot straight. We missed out on this entire move pretty much. I don't think that we'd called this SIGA at stock out once. Just being honest with you. You can go back on all the archive chat there, but really, it goes to show that there's going to be a bunch of different trades that fly under the radar, and that's okay. We're not going to be able to trade everything under the sun, but now at this point, we'll see if this can make a better push over 10 or maybe even a pullback, maybe even a short if it can hold 10 or does a false breakout. But you know what? Yeah, I'll add this stock to our watch list. And actually, to go back, I was doing that there for a second. Uh, Look at this run. We caught it back last year on SIGA. Now that we ended up trading. Stock came out with phase 3 news. You could actually just go back on Benzinga Pro, Google it. I don't remember the drug or whatever, but I remember it's phase 3. And that's pretty important for the story because in terms of pharma land and all the news that comes out with pharma and FDA approval based drugs, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. There's all a bunch of trial and endpoints in between. But, phase 3, not many drugs get towards even. So, SIGA, when that news came out, we were pretty bullish on this just as a day trade. It ended up being a great swing, of course, in that time too. But, hey, we're familiar with this stock, right? We like it, and we'll definitely add this to our watch list here. So we got CGC, we got SIGA. See what else we got. Really low volume stock here, DTSS. Now we're running into the inverse stuff like LABD from earlier. This is actually pushing up really nice. So making a new HOD now. It's hard to ignore this one here. Inverse biotech ETF, LABD. All right, I'll add it. Gotta. All right. Oh, very VERI, another stock actually that we've had our eyes on for quite a bit. We've been doing pretty well on the stock from the last week and a half. Little did we know it was an AI company. So yeah, we're a fan of the stock. We're going to add this to our list here. Looking pretty strong. Not really too much out there on the level 3, like a clear iceberg. I don't have the level 4 open for it, and that's all right. All right. So you know what? I'll tell you, we got a decent little start though now. And DJT. Yeah. Not a bad chart, just again, every day. Gotta say it. We're not here to trade stocks on crazy spreads unless if it's like looking extremely strong. This is looking pretty decent on the way up. I'd still be extremely reluctant here, just looking at the thin order book, but it's a nice little push, at least compared to DJT for comparing the two. Reddit. I'll add this to our list probably at the bottom. Be at, I do like the very trade more. I like the SIGA trade more potentially. Definitely CGC, right? Let's get back to that CGC trade there just for a moment. So it's still holding over my 860. It's got to bust a move though soon. That's where we had a bunch of big buying from earlier. So if it's not going to make that big push on the way up, just be prepared for what's to come. I already have 2 seatbelts on actually here in 2 different parts. All right, so what else we got here on the gainer side? Actually, a really good list here now. I was a little pessimistic at first, got to admit. CENX, aluminum stock, I think, right? Yeah. Actually having a really good day today, and we've said this actually intermittently on this run. It's been a great swing. It's actually fell more off the radar than anything, though, I got to say. But yeah, CENX adding back to our watch list for our afternoon, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, I'll tell you what, with the market down today, we already have 6 stocks on our watch list here from the gainer side. Pretty solid. I gotta say, pretty solid. One of them is inverse. All right. And one of them is the LABD inverse ETF. All right, I got you there. But still, 6 different tickers to work with there. Now let's hop over to the losers list, see if there's anything looking just as good, if not better. Really quick from chat, actually, just to go through the 2 just in chat from Dominic, one of our new students. And, NXL, man, this ended up just pulling back pretty nasty here. So obviously it's looking pretty ugly now, but it was a good call out at the time, I'm sure, when Dominic was looking at it, when it was pushing up towards 320, 330-ish. The gripe that we have on this trade is definitely just how thin the volume could be at times on the stock. It was back yesterday that we were following this, and it was right at resistance at 2. It broke above it, and then it came right back down and tanked. So it looks like it's starting to do the same exact thing here. It's been on a huge tear day over day over day, or like at this point. So with this drop back now, I'm not too jumpy towards it here, but I'll come back to it if we need to later on. Then the VVPR, man, what a great trade this was from earlier today. And oh no, one more time. Is it holding support again? We had a hell of a trade on this from earlier today from the 560 level. It didn't make my under and over. This actually I wouldn't have taken just because it didn't fit what I want. But from earlier, when under and over 560, that was a strong, weekly chart level that we had in mind going into the open right there. Oh, this was a hell of a trade heading into the early afternoon. Really good squeeze. Not as many of us were here at the time, but it goes to show that there's always an opportunity out there. We're not just going to say like, oh, perfectly on this trade, but if there's a level to watch and the stock ends up breaking over it or tries to go under and over, looking for that support hold. All right, set a tight stop. Put your seatbelt on tight. I don't mind going break even. I take losses too, but that's where I could have the chance to swing and try and hit a grand slam like this. And it ended up holding higher lows heading into 1230, popped right back up. I took half my trade out to begin. It was around like 7-ish. Then the second half as it popped up a little bit higher. But this was an all-star trade. Now at this point, though, it was beginning to pull back, and that's where we saw this begin to break lower. So lower highs, lower low. I think that we're done with this trade for now, just all together. All right. So let's hop over to the losers list, seeing if there's anything looking just as good, if not better. I grab my water bottle here. VERV, not really going anywhere now. It's at least shortable, albeit down 35%. Maybe you can get a dead cat bounce, but I'm not too interested. Doesn't really seem to be trending too well anywhere. Goev, there's some news that came out just, I guess in terms of the production rate overnight. They had a nice pop in the afternoon for us. It was like late in the day at like 3:30, 3:45 p.m. Eastern yesterday. It was a good trade, but it goes to show it's like, hey, that was like mainly just called out on its breakout, its run. We're advocating most of these call outs as day trades. So I wasn't expecting news to come out necessarily, but it goes to show like, hey, you can't just recklessly hold overnight. I think this ended up just snapping as soon as the market closed yesterday at 4 p.m. Yeah. A little later. Not 4 p.m., but like 4, even worse, actually. You're probably not at your desk. You're probably away from your desk at this point. You probably watch the stock heading into the after hours, probably just like kind of drifting a little bit sideways. Like, okay, we'll just come back to it later. Okay, we'll come back to it tomorrow. And then just, when you're away from your desk, you may be making a little lobster fried diavolo. You never know. Bam, that thing drops and yeah, you never know. So to a big pullback from that point. Sam saying, wasn't Goev reporting earnings yesterday? Well, if that's the case, that would make sense too. But I thought it was on top of that with like a report about their production. So if it's earnings based, even further, because at least that news is scheduled. As I look on my other screen here, yeah, right at 5:20, I see some report about Goev. Their earnings beat, their sales missed. Some mixed results there, but obviously on top of that, I guess news about their production rate falling off. But it just goes to show it's a day trade. All right, what else we got? What else we got here? Tesla ETF, not really moving too well right now. Obviously, Tesla just kind of choppy there too. All right, so let me know if there's anything else looking good for all of our students here in chat right now. Up, down, left, right, more than 5%. Let me know. Up, we're on to something. Anyone jumping on that CGC trade? Sam or Phil, any of our students here in chat right now? Just let me know if you had gotten in on the CGC from the 860 level. Dominic, Scott, John, Sam, Luis, any of our students there from earlier? There we go. Phil, good to see you chat. Honestly, I just kind of randomly blurted out a name or two out there, and Phil, I kind of shouted you out there. I didn't see you in chat before. Phil's listening. He's here. There we go. And keep in mind, this call out we had from earlier, right? This was off of 860, like pre-meeting. We had said just earlier at 2:09 Eastern. That was when we had first called it out there. For all of our students in chat, should see that message pop back up, right from that 860. But then at that point, flipped it into support, led to that better move. Now at this point, looking pretty strong. So if we go back to ACB, is that going to pop now? It's trying to squeak up a little bit. It was trying just to make a move back up the last few minutes. It's not nearly as strong, I feel, in terms of volatility compared to CGC. But for now, I'll keep this on the sideline. Ooh, that's right. CLSK had a big drop earlier today, just overnight with Bitcoin. We talked about that in our Traders Talk workshop. I don't really have any motive on this stock here outside of just like looking to day trade it day to day. We talked about it earlier, just the lack of perfect correlation between Bitcoin and the miners. That's where IBIT is going to be your better play. If just trying to, focus on Bitcoin altogether there. But that's pretty much it. All right, folks. So last call. Anything else looking good? Just type it in chat. Otherwise, I think that we're just about good to go. No class today, mind you, but we'll be back on the stick here at 3:05 Eastern Time myself. AISP, trying to make a small little move, and then AINC, Trader's Dyslexia there. Not bad. Well, not a bad chart. A bit of a thin order book. Crazy daily chart or weekly graph there, I should say. This is a weekly graph, but down from 11 to 1, then from 1 back up to 14. Holy smokes. All right, what's happening here? Yeah, look at this daily chart now, up and down. It's the Christmas tree formation, then back up today. Jeez. You know what? It's not on like a horrendous spread where it's like 15, 20 cents. I'm sure it could open up at some point. So, you know what? Just be careful on this trade, but I'll definitely add this on to our list here of 15%. NXL from earlier, right? We talked about this one. One of our students had brought this up before. I'm not really too keen to follow it for right now. It looks like the spread's a penny. Just hawking level 2 there because my level 3 is a little out of sorts, but that 2-cent spread. All right, I'll add this also to our list, but now at this point, unless if the stock's like making like an A+ move for us to capitalize on, I'm not going to be as jumpy towards anything. I think that we're pretty much good to go from this point. This PCSA trade, this AINC trade, both dead. And I think at that point, folks, we're going to call it. So give me a little bit, about 15, 20 minutes at 3:05, at least the latest. I'll be back on the mic myself for all of our students here in chat, taking us into the close. But if you're on social media, just either way, just at Cyber Trading U is always the handle on YouTube, Facebook Live, etc. We always host our main videos, education, free videos and whatnot on our YouTube portal right there. So at Cyber Trading U, namely on YouTube. But otherwise, if you're interested in joining us inside our live trading room, just scan that QR code as always on the top left of the stream with your phone, with your camera, get you live access to our trading room, our call outs, our moderators, including the man himself. Of course, I'm not talking about me here. I'm not that egotistical. I'm talking about Fausto, 30+ year pro trader out there in the market, streaming live each and every morning to our students in chat there each and every day. So, hey, best of luck trading going into the close. But otherwise, I will be back on the mic here in just a little bit. Talk to everybody soon. Take care.